Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nugroho Seto. In this occasion, I will represent about language and the brain. Language and the brain are intricately related, and in order to gain a deeper understanding of psycholinguistics, we must examine this relationship. It is the goal of this page to describe the various brain regions or structures, language process, and integrate connection between them. The structural anatomy of the brain will be discussed as it is the fundamental basis of the relationship between language and the brain. In order to understand the nature and dynamics of language, we must understand how it relates to the brain. Language is a function of the structure of the human brain, and several brain regions have been identified with linguistic capabilities. Next slide is language localization. The occipital lobe is so named because of the rest below the occipital bone of the skull. It is also the smallest of the lobes. There are actually two occipital lobes, one of each hemisphere of the brain. The central cerebral fissure divides and separates the lobes. The occipital lobes are located on the rear part of the upper brain. They sit behind the temporal and parietal lobes and above the cerebellum, separated from the cerebellum by a membrane called the tentorium cerebelli. In general, the occipital lobe deals with aspects of vision, including distance, depth perception, color determination, object recognition, movement, face recognition, memory information. The next is Vernical Area, is the region of the brain that contains motor neurons involved in the comprehension of speech. This area was visually described in 1874 by German neurologist Karl Wernicke. The Vernical Area is located in the posterior third of the upper temporal convolution of the left hemisphere of the brain. Thus, it lies close to auditory cortex. This area appears to be uniquely important for the comprehension of speech, sound, and is considered to be respective language or language comprehension center. The matched temporal lobe may result in a language disorder known as Vernical Aposia. An individual with Vernical Aposia has difficulty understanding language. Speech is typically fluent but is empty of content and characterized by circumlocution, a high incidence of vague words we like think, and something neologism and senseless word salad. The next one is Broca's area is recognized as one of the main language center of the brain. This region is associated with production of speech and written language as well as linked with the processing comprehension language. The name of Broca area comes to French psychiatrist Paul Broca, whose work on language impaired patients resulted in him discovering this language area. Anatomically, Broca's area is located within the frontal lobes of the cerebral cortex. The precise importance of Broca's area in the production of language is still up for debate. Evidence usually implies that damage to this area can impair language production, but there is still some uncertainty over what scientific language function is lost as a result of damage. It has been suggested that Broca's area may play a role in the motor movement necessary for speech production, whilst others have suggested that Broca's area may involve with its conclusion. The neural networking and structure of the brain in terms of how they are related to language comprehension and vocalization have always been a focus of researchers. As technology advances and we are better able to utilize neuroimaging technique to analyze the brain and its structure, we will further our understanding of how truly magnificent and complex it is. Language and of itself is a complex thing, and when we research this in terms of neural process patterning in the brain, it becomes an essentially more complex area to study. It is clear that many factors are involved in the acquisition and use of language, and that various brain structures have key roles in critical function. Neuroimaging techniques such as fMRI, MRI, and PET scan have vastly increased our knowledge and ability to study the brain in depth. And we only continue the expand upon the knowledge of how our sensory will get coded in the brain. Okay, that's all for me, and thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.